Right, so I have been taking the pistons out of my calipers to rebuild the calipers, but most of them came out quite easily. 5 out of the 8 came out really easily. I just grabbed the edge of the pliers and just twisted them and pulled them out, and they came straight out. But I've got one caliper here, right? Well, I've actually got 3 that have been difficult to get out, and I've just got one of them out just now using a wee trick that I saw on YouTube. So I'm gonna do that just now with this one. Part of the reason they're hard to get out is because they're almost completely flush with the face of the caliper, so there's nothing to get hold of. Plus, they're quite well stuck as well. So what we're gonna do? So what I've got is this wee 10mm socket, okay, and then I've got a breaker bar with an half-inch drive extension bar. Okay, so what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put the socket, 10mm socket, in like that. I'm going to put the extension bar in like that. This is in a vise. So here we go. Right, let's see. So I'm going to turn this, and there we go. Straight away it turns. It actually turns quite easily. So just keep turning. Press that in a bit. Keep turning. And it's starting to come out straight away. So that's already about half an inch out or so. I might even be able to pull that out by hand now. No, maybe not. It's still a little bit tight, but just carefully get the edge of the pliers and pull. There we go, that's straight out. So that's one piston removed very easily using the breaker bar and a socket. That's a really brilliant tip that I saw on YouTube. I think the guy was called Donaldo Moto or something. He's an Australian guy that's also doing Upper Sprint ST955i. So kudos to Donaldo Moto, shout out to him. Thank you, Donaldo, that was really helpful. It helped me get my pistons out. Saturday morning and yesterday afternoon and today I've got the calipers off the bike. I've stripped them all apart. I've managed to get the pistons out. 5 of them came out easily. 3 of them are difficult, but I managed to get them out, as I've already shown, using the half-inch drive extension bar and some sockets. Managed to break them loose and get them out. So that's all the pistons out now, all eight of them. What I've done is I have scrubbed the calipers in the sink, hot water fairy liquid and an old toothbrush, and got them as clean as I can get them, which, to be perfectly honest, is not 100% clean. They are not, absolutely spotless like new. But they're clean enough. I've got kind of bores clean and the bits for the grooves for the seals clean and all that kind of thing. And I've cleaned up these as much as I can. I can't really get them. They're kind of clean on the back. I've got them as clean as I can around the edges. They're not absolutely perfect. There's still some little bits like that I can't get off, but I reckon they're good enough that they can go back in and make a seal. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to put the seals in, and then I'm going to put the pistons back in, build them all back up and get them on the bike. So that's the kind of job for this morning. I have now installed the seals in the calipers using this red grease, which I can't remember the name of. I know there's a name for it, but I've kind of forgotten what it is, whatever. So I've put the seals in, and I've greased the seals as I put them in, before I put them in, and then I also greased inside the bores, just a little kind of smear of grease around there. And so I've done that on all 8 pistons, and I have also greased the pistons themselves. I just put a smear of grease around them so they're all kind of lubricated. So I'm gonna now install these calipers, and I think they should go in quite easily, I'm hoping. Let's see. Yeah, dead easy. Look at that, dead smooth. So progress update on the bike. So this is Saturday afternoon. I've been working on the bike pretty much all day since 7 o'clock this morning. I have, as I showed earlier in this video, I have rebuilt the calipers, stripped them all down, given them a good scrub in the kitchen sink with washing up liquid and everything, and greased the seals, put them in, built them all back up, torqued them all to the correct specs, put them on the bike. Initially, kind of felt that they didn't line up quite right with the discs for whatever reason. They didn't seem to be quite where I expected them to be. So I fiddled about with them a bit, torqued everything, tried to get the pads in. The pads did actually go in, which I wasn't quite expecting, because it looked to me like the wheel's a bit off to one side. The wheel is a little bit off to one side, but that's by design. It's because the speedo drive on the offside is a bit bigger than the spacer on the other side. The wheel does actually fit. I actually googled this. It's been a wee bit of a saga getting the calipers back on and the pads in and all the rest of it, but I have done it now. It's all back together. Everything's torqued to the correct specs. The caliper bolts are done up to like 40 Newton meters, and all the caliper bolts and pins and whatnot 25 Newton meter, which is what the Haynes manual says. So we now have kind of like the front end brakes built. Once I got the calipers on, then I went to connect up the hoses. Okay, so the way this is set up on the Sprint, and I'm assuming this is standard, you've got basically two hoses, but instead of having two hoses from the brake lever to each, like one to each caliper, two hoses all the way, what you have is one hose comes from the brake lever, goes down to this side, and then you have another hose goes over the top and down to this caliper, which is fine, except that the Mudguard, which I had installed before I put the wheel on, I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and when I installed the Mudguard, I assumed that it was meant to go right up to where the fork seals are, like as high as it can go, right? So I had it sitting up here, which is about maybe, I don't know, probably about 2 inches, 1.5 2 inches higher than it should be. And as soon as I put the wheel in, I think about a week ago. It was last Saturday I put the wheel in after I'd got the bearings installed at the garage, and I realised it was wrong, because I had a great big gap at the front here, and if you've seen my video from last week, you'll know what I'm talking about. It looked really stupid. The mudguard was sitting way too high. There was a big gap between the tyre and the mudguard, and I kind of thought, I'll sort it out later. It's just a cosmetic thing. But then when I came to put the brake calipers on, what I found was this hose that goes over the top, and I know you wouldn't think it to look at it now, because there's plenty of room. I can see I can get my hand right in there, yeah. But it wouldn't reach over the top of the mudguard. I was trying to get it onto here, I was trying to get all this together, and it wouldn't go because it wasn't just quite long enough. It was just a little bit too short. So basically, I then had to sort the mudguard. So I spent pretty much the whole afternoon messing about getting the mudguard to go where I actually need it to go, where it should go. I've mentioned in previous videos, but for anyone that's not seen my previous videos, this is not, and anyone that knows Triumphs will know this already just from looking at it, this is not a Triumph Sprint mudguard. This is a GSXR 1000 mudguard, okay? The reason for fitting that is because the mudguard that was on the bike when I bought it was broken, and by broken I mean it was like split right down the middle, all the way. So when I unbolted it, it basically just came apart in my hands, kind of thing, right? So I binned that, and then I had to get another mudguard, and I thought, I can probably get a mudguard off eBay or whatever. Well, I couldn't, could I? Because there just aren't any, like, really in the UK, or there wasn't when I was looking anyway. So I think the only one available was like £120 or something, and it was in Germany, so it was like 120 quid plus postage, and it was like, I'm not paying 120 plus postage for a bit of plastic. So I looked for just like a motorcycle mudguard, and this is what I found. GSXR 1000 mudguard. So this is what I fitted. This was 30 quid brand new. It's plastic mudguard, brand new, off eBay, about £30 I think. Can't remember if that included postage. Might have been a fiver for postage. Whatever. It's cheap and it's brand new and it's sort of decent. And obviously it's not meant to fit, but it kind of sort of fits. So this is the hole that I drilled earlier on when I had it screwed onto these mounting points on the forks. Obviously that's not used now, so what I'm going to do is I'll rub that down and do something with it at some point. This hole's not used. That hole is used with these clamps. These clamps are designed for like
putting headlights or spotlights or whatever on forks. They've got a wee bit of rubber in the back, and they just clamp on there, and I put an Allen bolt with a washer there. I've put a nylock nut on the other side so it doesn't come off. And then here what I've done is I've drilled holes through the mudguard. I had to cut these bits off as well, so I cut that off with tin snips and filed it smooth so it's a reasonably smooth kind of finish, because these bits were hanging down and they wouldn't fit because of the calipers, so I had to chop them off. These obviously aren't used. These are basically just some bolts I had lying around, hex bolts, and I put a nylock nut. I'd show you the nylock nut, but I can't really because it's too awkward in there. So that's basically it. So the mudguard's on with 4 bolts, 2 Allen bolts at the front and 2 hex bolts at the back, all done with nylock nuts, so it isn't going to jump off and run away. And there's enough clearance. The wheel also spins. See, there's a wee bit of drag, just a little bit of drag from the brakes, but I can spin it quite easily with one hand, which that's really hard to spin before because the calipers were binding on it and it just didn't want to spin. To be honest, there's still a wee bit of drag, but it's not just too bad. I'll see what they say on the MOT with regard to that. So that's the calipers, mudguard, wheel, all that done. So I've just started bleeding the brakes, so I've just put some brake fluid in the reservoir.